Hi, everyone. I'm Linda Bennett, your spiritual counselor and psychic host for Metaphysically Speaking. Now, if you have a question, you must ask if you have a personal question, ask a metaphysical question first, and then you can ask your personal question. Today, we're going to be talking about meditation and also what happens to your psychic ability. Do you have psychic ability? Does your cat have psychic ability? So these are interesting questions. I get them all the time. And let me correct a few misinterpretations or misunderstandings about meditation. You cannot be walking through the woods or walking down your street and meditating. You cannot be bicycle riding, horseback riding, riding a dragon, and meditating. Meditation is when you sit quietly and calmly, surrounding yourself with quietness and calmness. And I know if you've got a couple of kids, it can be hard. I don't care if you have to hide out in the bathroom. It's surrounding yourself with peace and quiet and calmness and tuning into the universe. And I'll show you how to do that. It's not walking. Walking is walking. You can be contemplating if you're walking, figuring something out. You can be horseback riding. You can be doing anything other than sitting quietly and meditating, and it's not meditation. If you're sitting quietly, you are meditating. Now, people smarter than I am said that prayer is when you talk to God. Meditation is when God talks to you. Now, you're not going to hear a booming voice coming out of the clouds, some man in a robe, but inside, your own psychic energy voice, or your own guardian angel or angels if you have more than one. And how do you know if you have more than one? Well, if you're in the medical profession, or you're in the scientific profession, studying medicine somehow, making the world a better place, or biology. If you're getting ready for a space mission, you're going to have extra angels that have had experience in those fields. I cannot tell you how many people have said to me that when their parents or when they were in the hospital after surgery, they felt presences with them, comforting, loving, and sometimes they heard humming, and sometimes they heard like a song without words, and they felt this warmth and this gentleness, and they knew everything was going to be okay. And okay is relative, because do you want to be in the physical body okay, or do you want to be in the astral world and okay? So we're all going to eventually be in the astral world and okay, but is it your time? And your angels know that, and they know how to help you along with that. So, and you're always told a day or two ahead of time.
That is the correct phone number.
Oh, we didn't have the correct phone number.
But you do now?
Okay. So I'll give that to you in a second. So the angels know, and you always know a few days ahead of time, sometimes a couple of weeks ahead of time, when your approximate crossing date, some people call it dying. I've had 12 near-death experiences. I call it crossing, when your crossing date is going to be. And that's when a lot of people start making phone calls to friends they haven't talked to and telling loved ones that they love them and tidying things up. And I remember when my Aunt Marie crossed over, and my cousins went to the house, she went in for surgery to have her artery cleaned out, the first one, and the second one was going to be a week later. Well, the moron doctor operated on the wrong artery, and she stroked out right there on the table. And when the boys went to the house, they found all of her jewelry labeled as to who it was going to. The legal papers were all together marked legal papers, and everything was all set up. And when I was saying goodbye to my Aunt Marie at the hospital, she said, "I'll see you." I said, "Okay, whenever that is, Aunt Marie." And I gave her another kiss, and she looked at me and she smiled. I'm going to cry, because she's one of those aunts that you really can't replace. My Aunt Marie and my Aunt Steph. And she knew, and she was a surgical nurse, by the way, and an ER nurse. She'd come in during emergencies when like there was a terrible car crash or something, and she'd be supervising what specialist and what person goes where. And so she knew. And this was her hospital. And she knew the surgeon who was going to operate on her. But she knew it was going to go wrong. And she knew it was her time. So how many other people can you say have done that? They've labeled the jewelry, they've labeled the plants, they've done all of that preparation. What a shock the boys had. They called me and told me, and I said, she knew. And I told them what I just told you, what we said in the hospital. And I said, when we looked at each other, I knew that she was not coming back. So there's this feeling many times that people are paying attention. And my Aunt Marie used to do her prayers every night, but she said to me, and I sit quietly and I just listen. And that was her form of meditation. A really good form of meditation, which if you are driving, do not practice this right now. Just remember what I'm saying. Stay in the traffic, pay attention to the traffic, and do this later when you get home. Sit up straight. If you're fabulously lucky and you can do the Lotus Posture, that's where you cross your legs, and one's up and one's down, sure, like that. And you can sit erect, great. If you can't, sit on a chair. And I don't mean a lounge chair, because if you're lounging, you're not meditating. Sit up nice and straight in a place that's comfortable. Make your own little altar area. I don't care if you just have a rosary on it, or if you have prayer beads, which are Buddhist and Hindu. Remember that Buddha was really a Hindu. There was no Buddhist religion, just like there was no Catholic religion. Jesus, Yeshua, was Jewish. So just sit quietly. You can put a rose, you can put a statue, you can put a picture of your family if you want. You can put a little angel. You can put, don't use a real candle, please, people. I've had so many situations saved by Pele, not the soccer player, but the goddess Pele of fire on this planet. Just use one of those Luminara things from QVC. Get a good quality one from QVC or HSN. Don't buy one out of Target because you don't know the quality, or any of the other stores. I'm not mentioning Target, singling them out. They just kind of came to me because it's a store I like. So sit quietly, put something of meaning to you. And I don't care if you're Jewish, Islamic, Protestant, Catholic, atheist, it doesn't matter. And I love to have atheists practice meditation because they get amazing results most of the time. So sit up nice and straight, and you're going to focus right here above your nose, between your eyebrows, not way up here because you'll get eye strain. But you're focusing on your pituitary gland, which is called the third eye. And that is where you're going to be looking with your eyes closed, sitting up straight. And you're going to inhale and exhale comfortably, either with your mouth or your nose at first. And then inhale through the nose, slowly, and exhale through the mouth. And eventually you'll be inhaling and exhaling through the nose. Don't worry about it. It'll just happen. Sometimes it'll happen once. Sometimes it'll happen twice a week. Sometimes it'll happen every night. Sometimes then it won't happen for a year. Don't worry about it. What you're doing is bringing the inhale and the exhale in a circle, an oval of light in your body. And visualize into the top of your head God's brilliant white light. And I call it of love, peace, protection, truth, and calmness, and divine love. That is love for all things, seen and unseen. You can say prayers for your Aunt Marie. You can say prayers for Beverly. You can say prayers for Bunny. You can say prayers for your pussycat. You can say prayers for anyone you know is either on this side, on the earth with us, or on the other side. Because we are all the same. We're all the same energy. We're all from the same God force, whatever that is. And I've always said, yes, I'm interested in knowing about the God force, but I want to know how that came to be and how that came to be. What's the beginning and where's the end and what started it? And since I'm not going to know in this lifetime, so I don't care. I'm just concerned about the God force that we feel, the energy that we feel that created this planet. If you listen to soundscapes, if you get cable, that's the music channels. You can get classical, you can get hard rock, you can get old 60s music. You can get also something called soundscapes, and that is what we would call relaxation, meditation music. And if you can play that for, say, 10 or 15 minutes before you start to meditate, that'll put you in the frame of mind of moseying over and getting to your corner, taking your phone and putting it in the drawer if necessary or under the mattress. If you have a turn off switch, that is important to use. Making sure the cat is fed, making sure the dog has gone out, making sure everybody honors your space and your time, and sitting quietly. So the soundscapes music is very good to listen to. It's quiet, it's contemplative, it can be flute, it can be violin, it can be a small orchestra, it can be anything. But it's soothing and relaxing, and it's very helpful. So what you're going to do is visualize the light, which is coming in anyway. This is just you being conscious of what's happening to you. This is the silver cord energy that you've heard about in different books and seen on different television shows. It's the connection. It's the God force within you. It's the God force within everyone. It's the God force within your cat, within your canary, within your puppy dog, within your little hamsters, your bunnies, the cows, the trees. The God force is in everything. We are made of God stuff. I call it God stuff because that's easier to remember, but it's actually astral, spiritual, etheric energy. That is the highest form of energy that we have. And it comes directly from the God force. And we get absorbed back up into that eventually. Eventually, when you learn all your lessons. Physical lifetimes are like going to school. And your temporary graduation is when you cross over and you say to your angels, well, how did I do? And they said, well, you're getting an A in this and you're getting a B in that. That's your graduation for this lifetime. Let me give you the correct phone number. It's 844-390-8255. So we had 8244, it's 8255. That's 844-390-8255. I'm going to correct that right here. Sorry about that. So you're sitting calmly, and what you're going to do with your hands, you're going to take your palms and open them, comfortably put them on your lap, just comfortably. Whether you have long legs like I do, whether you have short legs, they could be at your knees, they could be right tucked in where your body is, doesn't matter. If you are comfortable with your hands like this, only like that, that's called a mudra, which is a hand position. That's all it is. And you can do that comfortably on your lap. I find that that's one of the things I always did as a child. And that means a lot of things. It means a circle of completion. It means the completion of God and universe that you are part of. It means blessings from heaven and earth. And so you're never wrong. If you want to sit there like this and that's comfortable, fine, doesn't matter. God doesn't care. The God force and the angels care that you're meditating, that you're trying to reconnect with the universe on a conscious basis. If you weren't connected, you would be on the other side. You wouldn't be here in the physical world. You'd be on the other side in some dismal place, disconnected from the God force. That's what hell is. It's not what the Catholics say. It's burning hell and a pit of fire forever. I'm going to refrain from making comments on that because I want to keep it on a more peaceful note. But that has nothing to do with reality. Meditation is when you are silent and receptive to the universe. Do not let anyone tell you that the devil can hop in because you're not conscious of what you're doing. You are very conscious of what you're doing, and the devil does not hop in anywhere and does not hop in unless it's invited. And you'd be awful stupid not watching this show if that were the case. And your life would be more hell than you ever imagined possible. But that doesn't happen. That's one of the promises of the universe, that you are, if you are sincerely sitting meditating, you're protected. This is not when people sometimes are found sitting upright like monks and nuns in the Lotus Posture. Yes, this is shocking, but there are Catholic nuns and monks that meditate, and priests and rabbis. And if you're a regular listener or viewer, you know that I used to counsel 2 rabbis and several Catholic priests, all of them meditating. And if you're Jewish and you study Kabbalah, which is the Jewish mysticism, and you have to be a certain person, there's beginners, intermediate, and advanced Kabbalah. In the 80s, it was really trendy for people to walk around with a little red cord on their wrists saying, oh, I'm a Kabbalah student. Well, first of all, you're not supposed to be running around bragging about it. And second of all, they were the beginner Kabbalists. They were not taught the more esoteric circumstances because they were just flighty people flitting in for the newest craze because they didn't get meditation fast enough, or they didn't get fabulous results fast enough. So they said, oh, let's study Kabbalah, which is as one rabbi said to me, is every rabbi's nightmare. If somebody says Kabbalah, that's their nightmare, because I turn them down. And I said, well, then how do people study with you? He said, I pick them. I see their behavior. I know their behavior in the community. I know the questions they ask in class. Because just like any religion, basically, you can go to class in Judaism and learn more. And I observe, I see how people treat each other. I know who natural spiritual leaders can be. And he said, when I'm meditating, I confirm it. So he and most other rabbis, as he explained to me, will select people out where they feel are ready for Kabbalistic training. And the only thing I disagree with is many of them, but not all of the rabbis, teach that if you're Jewish, you stay Jewish in all your incarnations, because they understand reincarnation as well. And I said, what would the point of that be? He said, well, I don't teach that I know that is in the Kabbalistic lessons. I said, well, scratch it out. He said, oh, I have, relax, I'm not teaching that. He said, you're right, what would the point be of being Jewish lifetime after lifetime after? What are you going to learn? You have to learn. I'm trying not to talk the way he talked. Okay, let me get him out of my head. He said, reincarnation is to learn about life through all avenues. Every single situation, whether you're going to be a rabbit or you're going to be a kangaroo or you're going to be a person or you're going to be a tree, sorry, or you're going to be a tree, that is how it works, just the way those of you who are yogis teach it, and Hindus and Buddhists and Jains, etc. And Native Americans also meditate. In fact, they, like Hindus and Buddhists in many of the tribes, if you were going to be a shaman, if you were going to be training to be a shaman or a medicine, usually woman, you went out for 6 months or 30 days or whatever their particular initiation time was, usually a year, 12 months, 12 full moons. They would go out and they would have their robe, they'd have a bowl, they'd have a knife, and they'd have a cup or the bowl. And they would be meditating, whether it's in the mountains, in the deserts, in the plains, by themselves. And they would either come back soon, saying it's not for me, or they would last. Sometimes they'd last longer. Sometimes they'd come back on the 12th full moon. And they would then pursue the studies of becoming a spiritual leader. Hindus do that. Buddhists do that. Certain Catholic, more esoteric disciplines do that. Because everyone knows if you're going to transform your life, you have to take time away from the trains and the planes and the radios and the televisions and the screaming kids and the husbands and the wives and the parents and all that stuff. And you have to learn to relate to nature, because nature was here first. Many people think that nature is the enemy. No, humans are the enemy. Yesterday, the announcement came from several world organizations that we are already in the climate change transformations. If you doubt that, take a look at what's happening in the West. Take a look at what's happening in Greece, parts of Spain. I can't remember which Eastern European country is also in flames. Because there's no rain. Why is there no rain? Because when you mow over the grasslands and chop down the trees, there's nothing to attract rain. Doesn't rain in the desert, does it? Except maybe once a year. Desert, cement, pavement doesn't attract rain. Trees, flowers, bushes, grasslands, that attracts rain. And who do we have to blame for it? Well, first of all, ourselves for having too many children. I think there shouldn't be more than 2 children to a family, period. And in China, when they were trying to control the population explosion, the one-child policy was widely criticized, but it left more water and food for the people who were there. Then they moved to 2 children because the politicizing of it became so extreme they were afraid of being overthrown. So then it was 2 children, but there's still too many people on the planet, all across the planet. And children grow into adults and they need more and more resources. It's one of the reasons why in many communities, like the Inuits, which some people call the Eskimos, but they're not properly called the Eskimos, would put their sick people, sick and old people, out on an ice floe. I don't know what they do now, because there are very few ice floes left, but they put them on an ice floe and push them out to sea. Most of them froze to death and were grabbed by sharks or killer whales because they couldn't afford to use their limited resources on someone who was dying anyway. So it seems cruel, but if you look at the whole community, The whole community needs the resources. Anybody who can be productive and help the community survive should have the resources. If you're sick and dying and old, they can't help you. If you're young and sick, you get all the medicine, all the help, everything you need. It may seem harsh, but if they use all their resources on a few old, sick, and dying people, there's not going to be anything left for the community, and the community will starve. Mothers, fathers, babies, children. There's the wisdom to it. I'm not going to get into Governor Cuomo right now, but there's an investigation as to why people in nursing homes didn't get the vaccine soon enough. I think he was looking at that principle. Who should get the vaccine first? Well, first responders, and then includes firemen and policemen and military people, as well as doctors or anybody who works in a hospital. I don't care if it's the custodian. I don't care if it's the one who parks the cars. I don't care who it is who work in a hospital facility. They're going to get vaccinated first. And he was probably saying the same thing. I'm not going to give a limited amount of vaccines to people who are dying anyway. That seems harsh. Oh, because it's my mother and my grandmother. Well, God loves your mother and grandmother too, but they cannot help society. They're no longer able to do that. So I think he was 100% right, whether you like it or not. It is who can survive and help the community. Those people are going to get the shots first. And of course, now with Florida, that maniac governor, with Florida being the #1 disease state in the nation, saying that he's not going to pay the superintendents of the schools if they make children wear masks. The man is a complete moron. And so are all the people who agree with him. At no other time in history, when it was discovered that germs could be airborne, and this Delta variant is easily caught faster, and is worse than the original COVID-19 virus. At no other time in history, when people knew that you had to wear masks, did anybody complain about it. They were thrilled. They said, give me a mask. Because they wanted not to get the illness themselves, and they didn't want to contaminate their families. My prayer is that the people who get the virus next are the people who are the anti-vaxxers, who are contaminating their children, putting their own children and other people's children in danger. So I don't care what your religious affiliation is. I don't care what your political affiliation is. I don't care who you are. It makes sense to vaccinate when you have a good vaccination, and it makes sense to mask. Otherwise, you are responsible for the people who die because of you. I wouldn't want to be Ron DeSantis facing the angels when he dies. I wouldn't want to be Trump or his family or all of the Republicans who claim that January 6th didn't really happen. Because the hell that they are going to face is going to be severe. And it's going to be for each and every person who died or got sick because of them. That's how karma works, people. It doesn't always work instantly like you like, that you would enjoy seeing. It works when it can. And when you meditate, these are things you begin to understand. When you're focusing right here above the nose, between your eyebrows, it's like a little TV screen. When I'm doing consultations for people, I find something that's not moving. And if I have somebody sitting in front of me, which of course I haven't done because of COVID, but for years and years and years and years and years and years, I counseled in person. And if they're fidgety, I say, okay, stop fidgeting. I can't concentrate when you're fidgeting. You know, sometimes people are nervous and they're fidgeters. They have to do this, they have to do that, they have to look at a book. Just stop it and let me concentrate. And like a picture, like a TV screen, I would see pictures and I would see the situation and I would see what can be done about it. That can happen to you. Or you may see a color, you may see a picture of somebody you knew, or the face of somebody you knew who meant something to you, or you don't even know that they meant something to you in another lifetime and they're still looking out for you. Angels don't have faces, but they have a light, and you always know internally your soul knows and recognizes an angel. So if a light form comes to you, a white light form comes to you, that's usually an angel or a specially evolved being that's there to help you with your meditation. They're never left hanging. That doesn't mean that you're going to see sparkly things and pussycats and puppy dogs and Tweety birds. It means that you are focusing and you are practicing. Like, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. How do you get spiritual enlightenment? Practice, practice, practice. And you always pick up where you left off in the last lifetime. Even if you didn't meditate, but you sat quietly, pardon me, and you didn't have the techniques, but you just sat quietly and stared at something, like I used to do as a kid. Would sit in the woods or sit behind the pine tree in my yard and quietly focus on something, usually on a pine branch. There was a section of pines that was sort of like this. So I would sit in the middle, like they were encircling me with their, the pine tree was encircling me with its arms, its branches. And I would just quietly hum sometimes or just sit quietly and focus on the tip of a branch or on a flower. Sometimes a bird would come down and they'd be hopping along looking for a worm or something. And then they'd stop and look at me, and I'd have squirrels come down. One time when I was sitting in the pine tree, two squirrels came down. First one, then the other, and they're sitting there looking at me. And squirrels and birds and pussycats and puppy dogs know that you're doing something special because they feel the energy too. Around you forms a cocoon of light, of positive, powerful, good energy. And that's attractive to other forms of life. That's attractive to animals. When people say, oh, I push my dog away, I push my cat away. No, they're honoring you. They're getting the good energy too. Gracie sits under my meditation chair every night. Go look for the Gracie and I see a little tail sticking out, or I see a little paw sticking out the other side. And every night I pull the chair out, flatten it down, sit, and I look down, boom, she's right underneath the chair. All my kitty cats either would curl behind my back here, and Sweetie Pie would sometimes rest her head on my shoulder. All my kitties did that when I was meditating. And people tell me their dogs do it. Get attracted to the energy. Babies will suddenly get quiet. If you have a sick child and it's asleep and you wheel it in, or you're meditating near the sick child, they'll usually calm right down. I hear this from mothers all the time. The baby will calm right down and go to sleep because the baby receives the positive blessings as well. So you may say, I don't see a thing. Well, don't worry about it. You will pick up where you left off in the last lifetime. So if you had one of your chakras, and I think by now you all know your chakras, 12 body chakras, 144 altogether. Physical body and your soul body, which is larger than your physical body. So if you were seeing things and knowing things, you'll see things and know things now. But then they'll stop that because the universe wants to see how persistent you're going to be in your meditation. Are you going to be one of these fly-by-nighters? He says, oh, well, I didn't get anything today. What the heck? this is screwy, I don't need it. Because the benefit of meditation is not just to see things, but it's to feel calmer. It's to see things in a way you've never seen them before. Maybe the trees are going to be more vibrant. Maybe you're going to think your dog or your cat looks different because they get the benefit too. Maybe you're going to look at your spouse and say, gee, your hair looks nice. It might not be any different than it was yesterday. But you yourself are going to feel different if you're truly meditating, rather than looking at the clock and putting in your time. I would rather you not meditate in the morning on the way to work, if that's all you're going to do. Unless you want to say, sit in your chair and say, okay, God, good morning. Do I have any special instruction? Most of the time, there'll be nothing. Sometimes you'll feel like you need to leave now. And that could be because you're avoiding an accident that might happen in 5 more minutes. So if you hear or feel like you need to leave now, you need to leave now. Sometimes you'll just feel, okay, I'm more centered, I'm more relaxed. I'm going to work fresh as a daisy. I'd rather you wait till you get home and you don't have any time limits and you can sit quietly and meditate. Sometimes it'll be for 5 minutes, sometimes it'll be for 15 minutes, an hour, sometimes it'll be hours. I had a friend who used to listen to music for 4 hours and tell me he was meditating. I said, no, you're listening to music. You're not meditating. If you want to start off with a meditation tape that has music on it and then just let it play out, that's fine. That puts you centered and helps you become more in tune with feeling the energy flowing down to the top of your head, all the way through your body, way down to your toes and below your toes and to your soul, and way back up again through the chakras, which are psychic energy points and organs or glands like your thyroid and parathyroid, and your pituitary gland, and your pineal gland, and your heart chakra, and your spleen, and your stomach area, your solar plexus area. That's it. Remember that horrible feeling you get sometimes, oh God, something's wrong, something's not right. That's your solar plexus telling you something is not right. Something is, you need to be aware. Whether it's traffic, please people, put your phone away. I watch on PBS a show called Unforgiven. It's a British police detective group that solves Unforgiven or Unforgotten. I think it's Unforgotten, that solves old cases. And you just knew this is going to happen. She's always that you have to be in an accident for. So quietly, you will eventually hear things. There's the old joke where the student is meditating and suddenly sees a blue light. They're so excited and runs to the teacher, says, teacher, I just saw a blue light in my meditation. And the teacher said, don't worry, it'll pass. Because the idea is not to worry about the blue light or the picture of a tree that forms. The idea is to feel more in tune, more centered. And by the way, you get physical benefits. Your blood pressure will begin to normalize. If you have diabetes, it's not going to cure diabetes, but it can make your levels better. If you have general, I don't feel good, well, you might have a vitamin shortage. It's not going to give you the vitamin shortage, but it'll give you the insight into the vitamin shortage. And here's what happens. You'll turn on the TV and there'll be a show and they'll be talking about vitamins. And you'll hear your vitamin, this particular vitamin mentioned. And you'll think, well, I'm tired. Maybe I do need some B complex. And especially if you're a vegetarian, you need B complex and you need vitamin B12. I take a sustained release, 5,000 milligrams vitamin B12, sustained release over 12 hours, and 300 milligrams of B complex and iron because I used to tend towards anemia because I didn't even like meat as a child. I ate it as an adult because I thought I had to because I had low blood sugar. And that was what they said in those days. I've been a vegetarian for so many years. I think many of you were not born when I became a vegetarian. And we're fine. There are continents of people that don't eat meat and are doing fine. You know, the Chinese, eating meat to them is relatively new because they were farmers and they would have to sell their pigs so they could grow more crops, whether it was soy or whatever it was, or rice. So, and what's happened? Well, they're getting the fast hamburger joint heart attacks and high blood pressure. Everywhere the United States goes with its meat, the health deteriorates of the people who are now in this new methodology of eating, including the United States. Not this many people ever had diabetes or high blood pressure. So think about what you're putting in your body. Now let's talk about psychic energy. Psychic energy is simply your soul's mind. We all have a soul. Your pets have a soul. Your friends, every person, a tree has a soul. The planet has a soul. And the planet's been saying, I've had enough of you people. So everything has a soul because it's created by the same source, the same God force that's in everything. It's like molecules spreading. It's like a mist of molecules spreading throughout the universe, creating planets, creating seasons of weather, creating life forms on the planet. There are planets that are just vegetation. There are planets that are just minerals. There are planets that have people. They don't all look like us. Why should they? I think this model has particular problems. They worked it out better on other planets. Psychic energy is not to be feared. And why do priests especially, or ministers tell you, no, 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 that's evil, that's the devil? Because they want you to rely upon them for every thought and every deed and every concept. They don't want you reading anything else but what they tell you to read, and that's the New Testament. They don't want you to read the Old Testament, which, you know, on the first page, it talks about God creating male and female equally at the same time. And then 2 pages later, it says God created man and then created women from his rib. Really? That's stupid. Even when I was 5 years old, I questioned my father because I used to pull the Bible out of the bookcase. We had huge bookcases in the living room. And it was so big. It was the King James version with all the pictures, and, you know, the Middle Ages pictures and the gold on the edges of the pages. I don't know what that cost them, but it was a bundle. And so we had to pull it out, and then I started at the beginning. Now, I leafed through it. I didn't feel in there that I needed. So I started at the beginning, which is the Old Testament. The Catholics used to be forbidden to read the Old Testament. Why, you say? Well, because it's got information in there that you're not getting. And it does say that men and women were created equally. But people find the second page and say, see, men were created first. Don't look at the first page. And you're not supposed to be in there anyway. It says in the Bible that women were created from the man. So therefore she is subservient. And it says that as well. And the Old Testament also talks about how you treat your slaves. So I'm not all that impressed with old Judaism. I'm not impressed with any of the Western religions at all, except that they're destructive. The only true thing that ever came out of communism was a statement that religion is the opiate, that's it, opiate of the people. Because it fills them with drivel. Instead of being able to meditate and contact God and the angels yourself, no, they don't want you to do that. They want you to pay attention to what you say, what they say. Does that mean you will never have a confrontation with an evil spirit? Well, I think you can go to the supermarket and meet a few evil spirits. They're the ones pushing you out of the way. They're the ones giving you a shove. They're the ones giving you dirty looks. Online, the same thing. I had a woman years ago take her basket and push it up against my back, and I turned around. I was thinking maybe it was a child, so you know how they push the basket for mommy and mommy's taking stuff off the shelf and you don't see even the head. You just see these little hands pushing. And I turned around and I said, what is wrong with you? And she said, you're not moving fast enough. I said, there's a woman in front of me. Do you see any space on this, whatever it's called? We put the, what is it?
Aisle, the aisle.
No, on when you're checking out.
Oh, cashier.
Cashiers, the thing you get wheels along. There wasn't a space for a tissue. And I said, and where would you like me to put things? She said, well, just hurry up. I said, I think you need to calm down. Cashier was listening and she said, is there a problem, lady? And she said to the one passing me, she said, is there a problem? She said, that aisle has got fewer people on it. Why don't you join over there? I said, thank you. She said, you're welcome. That woman was crazy. I said, maybe yes, maybe no. And maybe what happened is she saw my light and she was repelled by it. I wrote something called Thoughts on Meditation years ago, and I talked about it as you go through life on your spiritual journey. Some people will be attracted to your light and others will be repelled. Not everyone is on the same level, and not everyone is at the same speed. And so therefore, avoid those that would harm you, even psychically. And there are people who would harm you psychically, but it's just part of your training. I used to say, thank you, evil. I didn't know I was doing so well. I was trying to read what's up there. And now there's a little light, but now it's gone. I didn't know I was doing so well that you would bother sending some negative energy over here. Thanks. Gee, I'm doing better than I thought. If you see anything that's unpleasant, ask your angels to explain why you're seeing this. Is this information for you? Because it's something you're dealing with now and you don't know it? Is this information for you for the future? So that you can be prepared. Don't fear what you see in meditation. And if you see nothing for 35 years, don't worry about it. Because you are in connection with the universe, you're being tested as to how serious you are about your meditation. And is your blood pressure getting better? Are you relating better to people? Are you responding better to people in tragedy or despair or confrontation or betrayal? Are you responding to the situation in a calmer, quieter, clearer, cleaner way? Or you're running around like a nut screaming, carrying on? These are the things you look for when you're meditating. Do you get as upset when you're having to do the bills because you don't have the money you thought you had? Are you getting upset when someone hasn't called you and you were expecting a call? Relax. They'll call later or they'll call tomorrow. And if they don't call you when you have a good friendship, then call them. They may have forgotten. They may have fallen down the stairs and they're in the hospital with their leg up in the air. So you don't know what's happening on the other side with the other person. But are you dealing with it in a way that the angels would be pleased with you? Are you dealing with it with dignity?
5 minutes.
That's the key to life. Are you dealing with life, with people, with circumstances, with dignity? Even if people are screaming that you're wrong, are animals responding to you better? St. Francis of Assisi, who's on my altar a little, we don't know what he looked like. I mean, we just basically, if you can look at the artwork at his time of life and see that he was partially bald and he was a small, thin man with brown hair. I've always liked him even as a child. And when he would meditate outside, the birds would come. That's why he's considered the patron saint of creatures, because the animals would come to him And the birds would perch on his head, and they'd perch on his shoulders, and the squirrels would come, and the bunnies would come, and whatever else was in Italy at the time, they would join him. Because his spirituality, not religion, his spirituality radiated. And that's what meditation is about, and that's what your psychic energy is. It's your re-energizing to the universe. It's your re-energizing to the soul self. Now, if you have any questions about it, please call next week or next. No, it's the second Tuesday and the fourth Tuesday of every month at 6 p.m. And the number to call is the 844-390-8255 number to call into the show. If you want a consultation, go on my website, Metaphysically Speaking. All the information is there. And we can arrange private consultations in the late afternoon, early evening. And this is for everyone. And it doesn't matter if you're an atheist or an agnostic. It doesn't matter if you're Hindu, Buddhist, whatever. God is not a religion. If you ever know one thing, God is not a religion. God is spirit. And if you just open up your hearts and minds to God's universal truth, you are going to know that God and the angels are always with you. Thanks for joining me. I'm Linda Bennett.